back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And what is going on, full-time family? It is time to break down and predict this weekend's fight card, headlined by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Anthony Pettis, Showtime Pettis. This is going to be a really fun fight, potentially. Hopefully Anthony Pettis really brings it and we can turn this into fireworks, because there's definitely potential. Anthony Pettis definitely brings the ninja shit. I almost said nigga shit. Anthony Pettis definitely brings the ninja shit. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, the karate master. Ooh, just rubbing my hands like Birdman right now. But we got to break down the entire main card and predict it. So let's get straight into this, full-time family. We'll start with the first fight of the night. The card is going to be co-main evented by Curtis Blaydes and Justin Willis. We're going to have John Makdessi versus Jesus Pinedo. Jussier Formiga versus Davison Figueredo. Luis Pena, the Violent Bob Ross, going to be taking on Steven Peterson. And then, of course, the future Maisie Barber taking on JJ Aldridge. That's a really good fight. Can't wait to see what happens there. And that's where we're going to start our breakdown and prediction. So let's get straight into it. Maisie Barber is undefeated at 6-0. She's 1-0 in the UFC. JJ Aldridge is 7-2. So similar experience, but she has 3 wins in the UFC and 1 loss. So a few more fights in the UFC. Maisie Barber is only 20 years old at 6-0. She finished 5 of her 6 fights. She won her UFC debut against Hannah Cyphers about 4 months ago. Her opponent, JJ Aldridge, is 26 years old, 7-2 as a pro. Also went 7-4 as an amateur, though, and has 3 wins in the UFC after losing her UFC debut to Juliana Lima, all of which have went to decision, all of her UFC fights, or her wins. This is a tough fight for me to call because Maisie Barber has looked great to this point and in her career, but JJ Aldridge has a lot more overall experience than any of Maisie's previous opponents. Also, she's well-rounded, so this is really a toss-up for me. I am going to pick Maisie Barber to win this fight via decision or ground and pound in the second round, but Maisie Barber's still really young, and she's already on a path, I feel like, of trying to become like the next. I think one of her quotes was, "I'm gonna be bigger than Ronda Rousey," or something like that, you know. So she's got a lot on her plate, and she's still really young, not a lot of experience. So I don't think she's gonna be able to just go from here 6-0 on an undefeated run to the title, win the title, you know, Khabib 25. No, she's gonna lose one of these fights. It might be to JJ Aldridge, because JJ Aldridge is really good. And until then, I am going to be looking forward to Maisie Barber's fights, because she does finish fights, which is a little more rare in WMMA, but she's finished 5 of her 6 wins, which is always fun. Also, she's very charismatic. She's good on the microphone. She's marketable. She's a good fighter. She's got a good fight team, a good fight family behind her. So there's a lot of things I'm rooting for with Maisie Barber. I just don't know where she's at in her career this early. You know, maybe 1-2 more years, you know, she's 14-0, and then she comes to the UFC, and then we really got a problem. But hey, maybe she's ready now at 20 years old. We will see. But for those reasons, I'm looking forward to this fight. I'm picking Maisie Barber. Let's put that on the screen. Get our green check marks going. Nope, not on JJ Aldridge. Maisie Barber. We're picking Maisie Barber for the win. All right. Now we will move to our next fight of the evening. The Violent Bob Ross taking on Steven Ocho Peterson. Man, the Violent Bob Ross, what a character. The Violent Bob Ross, Luis Pena, is coming off of a split decision loss to the Ultimate Fighter winner Mike Trizano after an impressive first-round submission win in his UFC debut. He also went 8-2 as an amateur before turning pro, and is now 5-1 as a pro at 25 years old. He's finished all 5 of his professional wins. Steven Peterson is 17-7 as a pro, and 1-1 in the UFC. He earned a split decision win over Makdessi after losing his UFC debut to Brandon Davis via decision. I'm for sure going to take Luis Pena in this fight. He's been fighting higher level competition, I believe, actually, in his short career. Even though Peterson does have a lot more pro fights on his resume, Bob Ross also does have those 10 amateur fights. And he's also got a fight in the Ultimate Fighter house, where he had a little mini training camp and was coached by Daniel Cormier, and there's some other fighters, and that whole environment, which also is experience that's not on your professional record. Now he trains full-time with AKA, which is one of the best fight teams in the world. So I think wherever he was the last time we seen Luis Pena, he's just going to continue to improve in all aspects of MMA. And I really think he could make a splash in the top 15 in the future, since he decided to take his career seriously enough to move full-time to an AKA or an ATT. Like, those are the best fight teams in the world. Those are two of right now. Of course, there's the Jackson Wings and the Elevation fight teams and all these other good fight teams, but the most champions and the best fighters come out of AKA and ATT right now. So anybody that trains there, I feel like is taking their career pretty serious if they move there just to further their career. And I don't doubt anybody coming up out of those camps. So Luis Pena's got potential. Keep working hard with AKA, and he'll make a splash. So I'm picking Luis Pena to win this fight, actually. He's coming off of a split decision loss to Mike Trizano. Some people felt like he won it. But either way, I think he's, in this fight, don't let the records deceive you. 5-1, 17-7. He's got a lot of amateur experience. He trains with AKA. He's got the Ultimate Fighter experience. So he's got a lot of intangibles that are on his resume. And that's why I'm picking him to win this fight. Alrighty. Moving on to the next fight. Jussier Formiga versus Davison Figueredo. This is a flyweight fight, so I'm surprised it's even still happening, considering the UFC traded Demetrius Johnson for Ben Askren, then started releasing flyweights because they were supposed to be full in the flyweight division. But since this fight is scheduled and it's happening, it's a great matchup between two of the top 5 ranked flyweights in the UFC. Jussier Formiga is currently riding a 3-fight winning streak on the verge of a title shot with wins over Oka Sasaki, Ben 10 Win, and Sergio Pettis, 2 of those by way of submission. Davison Figueredo is undefeated, 4-0 in the UFC, coming off a nasty second-round win over John Marko. The winner of this fight could very well challenge Henry Cejudo next for the flyweight title, with Demetrius Johnson out of the picture. So, as far as who I'm picking to win, I think someone's O has got to go. I'm taking Jussier Formiga. In this fight, I'm picking Jussier Formiga. He's got a lot more UFC experience. He's been fighting and beating higher level opponents and only loses to the best flyweights in the world. He's 8-3 in his last 11 UFC fights, only losing to former title challengers Joseph Benavidez, Ray Borg, and current champion Henry Cejudo in a fight that he lost via split decision. So he actually has a split decision loss to the current champion. I think he wants that title shot, and he's really close. Figueredo's win over John Marko was extremely impressive, but I got to take Formiga in this one. I'll say second or first round submission by Jussier Formiga. We'll see though. Davison Figueredo, man, he'll knock you fucking stone cold out for a flyweight. We've seen that in this fight with John Marko, which is where I really was like, okay, this dude's the real deal. Like, before the John Marko fight, I was like, yeah, we'll see. When he knocked out John Marko, I was like, okay, this motherfucker's serious. But like I said, I'm taking Jussier Formiga. Few more fights to break down. We got John Makdessi versus Jesus Pinedo. I'm gonna actually have to look into it. I'm thinking maybe Jesus Pinedo took this fight on short notice, because just doing the research, it almost feels like a little bit of a mismatch. Jesus Pinedo is 1-0 in the UFC. He's riding a 7-fight winning streak, but those 6 fights were outside of the UFC and not against the greatest competition. His opponent, John Makdessi, on the other hand, has 15 fights in the UFC, so 15-1 UFC fights. He's clearly been fighting against a lot higher level competition, and he's currently riding a 2-fight winning streak, but he's 3-1 in his last 4 UFC fights, only losing to Lando Venata in that time. I'm for sure taking John Makdessi. He's just been fighting way higher level competition, with the 15 UFC fights compared to 1. He's been fighting at a higher level for a long time. Only way he loses this fight is robbery or fluky decision. But as far as, you know, skill level, he should be way higher here. So I'm going John Makdessi. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening. This fight, yeah, I'm just going Curtis Blaydes. It's a heart and a head pick for me because I'm actually a fan of Curtis Blaydes. I like what he brings to the table. I think he's a really good fighter, potential. I just like the guy, you know, personally and as a fighter. I think he's really fucking cool. So, on the other hand, he's also one of the best wrestlers in the division, and young. He's like fucking 26, and he's a savage. Like, all of that aside about me liking him, he's actually just a fucking beast as a fighter. Curtis Razor Blaydes, when he took down Mark Hunt, what, 10 times? Took down Alistair Overeem, fucking cut him open with the elbow. It looked like a horror movie, blood just psh. Like, this dude is a beast. He's got 2 losses on his resume, both to Francis Ngannou, and you know how it goes. First one was a doctor stoppage. The rematch he for sure was supposed to win. But if Francis Ngannou touches you with one of them uppercuts from the Cameroon, you might, you know, be taking a nap. And that happened to Curtis Blaydes. Recently just happened to Cain Velasquez, even though, you know, a lot of people say it's the knee. Yeah, the knee popped or gave out. But right before that, he had a nasty uppercut. We know what Ngannou does when he hits people with those. And so, yeah, he knocked out Curtis Blaydes, but that don't mean Curtis Blaydes is trash. If you think Curtis Blaydes is going to lose to Justin Willis just because, oh, he lost to Ngannou, he sucks. No, you're fucking crazy. Curtis Blaydes, in my opinion, will be the future heavyweight champion. He's just that good. I mean, 26, 27 years old, already one of the best wrestlers in the division, already beaten the Mark Hunts and the Overeem. So he's just, yeah, man. So I think he wins this fight. Justin Willis has looked great, 8-1. I believe he's undefeated in the UFC, actually, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, he's undefeated in the UFC at 4-0. He beat Muharan, Crowder, Sherman, Willis. I mean, he's Willis. He beat Chase Sherman, Mark Hunt most recently. So yeah, I'm going with my boy Curtis Blaydes. He's been fighting a little higher level competition. Both of them do have the wins over Mark Hunt, but other than that, I got Curtis Blaydes. I think he's one of the best heavyweights in the world. So yeah, Curtis Blaydes for me. Moving on to the main event, of course, we got Stephen Thompson versus Anthony Pettis, and yes, I'm picking Stephen Thompson just like probably everybody, but it will be wild if Anthony Pettis comes in here and fucking pulls off the upset. You know, like some ninja shit, kick off the cage for old time's sake. It would be wild, but I think we're all probably expecting Stephen Thompson to win this fight. A little rangier, bigger fighter, been fighting at welterweight. Anthony Pettis usually fights at lightweight, even tried to go down to featherweight at one point. Didn't work out too well, but lightweight, former UFC champion, coming up a weight class. Good style matchup for Stephen Thompson. A guy that's, you know, going to be trying to strike with him, and he probably has a reach advantage. So I think this is just a good matchup for Stephen Thompson. Similar to Jorge Masvidal. In my opinion, if you can beat Jorge Masvidal, you can damn sure beat Anthony Pettis. And you know, as far as if you're Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, because it's a similar matchup. But I feel like Jorge Masvidal is a little more aggressive, a little better with the hands. Like, so, yeah, it's a good fight, potential to be really fun. If Anthony Pettis just shows up and wants to fight for us and entertain the fans, or, you know, but it can also be a chess match in there. So either way, I'm looking forward to this card. It's going down this Saturday. We will be doing a fight companion over at UFC Yankovic, so make sure you tune into that. And with that being said, it is what it is. Quick update for the full-time family. Video's been light this week. We have did a couple shows over at UFC Yankovic, but I've just been getting everything taken care of. I paid off my payday loan. I'm driving legal now. I paid my insurance. I got my tags straight. Like, everything is just awesome right now as far as getting shit taken care of. So I've been handling all that, and yeah, working, just keeping to work. So hope you guys have all been enjoying these fights, and we're gonna enjoy these fights tomorrow. With that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOWG.